You're listening to the Make Life Epic podcast with SImcoe. Thanks for being here today. Let's get rolling with the show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Make Life Epic podcast. I'm so stoked for this interview with my very good friend, Tricia Moore, who's here to talk about how to train and successfully run a half marathon, which she just helped me do. So Trish, welcome to the office. Welcome to the show.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yes.
I love your office. It's very nice.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad to have you. And Trish is awesome. Trish is a coach, one of the coaches at our CrossFit at our gym, and she's been just a fantastic help for me in both as a coach but also as a friend, and helping me through a variety of different things in my workout journey. So, and she's also like a super athlete. This is the woman who's, like you see running down the street going 900 miles an hour with a big smile on her face as she's running up a hill. So usually I tend to really dislike these people because I'm nothing like them, but Trish is really cool. So tell us a little bit about your background and what you do.
What I do right now is I work for Stratum Fitness in Solana Beach as a coach, and I love it. What
do you love about it?
What do I love about it? I love a lot about it. I would say my favorite part is helping people get better and helping them adjust their movement or providing contribution for them to have a positive result. And then they say, oh, that feels better, or I get it. I understand this. And that is incredibly rewarding. There's no more rewarding job that I could think of, at least for me. And I love it.
Sorry. And before I so rudely interrupted you, what else were you saying? What else do you love about your job?
I love seeing their faces come in. I love hearing about their day. I love being a bright spot in their day, honestly. But most of all, I love to help them get better. So
that's cool. That's super cool. And then, so what's your fitness background? Like, what's your background?
Well, my fitness background.
Were you a runner? You've been a runner all your life, right?
Yeah, I've been a runner most of my life. And, as an adult, my fitness background has been very heavily involved in the personal training and group exercise world, more of in the conventional gym environment. Okay. And I did that for a very long time. I started teaching back in 2000, I think. It's a long time ago. And while I enjoyed it, I never felt fully complete. And I never felt that that world was really contributing to the health and wellness of the participants.
Why did you not feel complete? Like what was it? What about it made it not complete for you?
The fitness prescription wasn't complete. There wasn't a total emphasis on the mind, the body, the lifestyle, food. It was, in my opinion, sold and prepackaged and not comprehensive.
Okay.
And I knew that, but I didn't know if there was an alternative. And a couple of years ago, I met Blake and Eric. And as soon as I met Eric, the owners of Stratum,
right,
I knew that this was the spot. And so within a month, I knew I wanted to work there right away.
That's cool. That's so cool. All right. So tell me, and we're going to get in more into that because I want to get into detail about that. But tell me, where did you grow up? And tell me something interesting about high school for you. I like to ask people about that because I really feel high school shapes us in so many ways. Like as an example, my high school, my very first day of high school, which was in a different town, in a different state that I grew up in, as I was walking into high school with 1,000 kids I had never met before, I tripped on the front steps, dropped everything, fell flat on my face.
Oh, Did anybody help you?
No, nobody helped me. No. You believe that? That crap? Nobody helped me. I think about it.
Maybe that's why you're a nice man now.
Maybe that might be it.
It was a life-changing moment for you.
Must have been. But so seriously, where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Spokane, Washington. And
wow, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, my sixth grade teacher, Mrs. King, was very athletic and started a running club. So I decided that I was going to start running. And I learned very fast that I enjoyed it, and I was fast. I had no idea what I was doing, but it felt like magic to me.
Yeah.
And as a kid, we used to ride dirt bikes, and I'd play outside all the time. I was definitely a tomboy. My parents would always let us just, play outside and roam.
Yeah.
So I really got to experience a lot of fun athletic adventures as a kid. But when I ended up running with that group, it changed my life. And so from that point forward, I kept running. And I had a very difficult childhood growing up, and running was definitely a way that I coped with things.
Okay.
It was my time of solitude, relaxation. And oddly enough, when we moved from Washington State to California, I was not socially accepted and very,
Why?
they made fun of me. I had really long hair and the girls would pull my hair, and I was bullied a lot.
Seriously?
Yeah. And so
Oh, shit.
they were having a track meet at our school, and nobody knew me. And I decided to run the track meet, and I ran the 400. I did the long jump, and I beat everybody.
And the 400 is a crazy race.
It's fast.
And it's just one time around the track.
It is, yeah. And then I think we did the meet over 3 days, and I ended up running the mile as well. And I beat everybody in all 3 events. So from that point forward, I was not picked on anymore.
Wow, that's crazy. I love it. That's awesome.
So that was, running has always been a very positive influence in my life, for sure.
Interesting. Okay,
and
cool.
then as an adult, I ran in high school. I didn't go to college right away.
What was Trish like in high school?
Oh gosh, I was very non-clicky. Like, I talked to everybody. I wanted everyone to be my friend, and I would do a lot of things by myself, though. I wasn't in like the in group, but I wasn't not. I just wanted to be accepted by everybody.
Yeah. It's funny. Most people, almost every single person I've spoken to, that's Trish shaking up her water, by the way. We did not get, tsunami didn't come through. Almost every single person I talk to, when they talk about high school, they all say something very similar. They all say, it was a little bit of an uncomfortable time. I just wanted to be accepted. It wasn't like, there isn't anyone, at least that I've talked to, who's been like, oh my God, high school was awesome. It was the best experience of my life. It was just like,
it's a tough time.
Yeah, it's an
awkward time. I was voted most gullible.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Most gullible.
Most gullible.
That's awesome.
I probably won't live that down.
That's so great. You really, remember, I'm going to see you outside of here. So, maybe you shouldn't tell me that.
That's okay.
Okay. So here's one of the sort of the meat of what I want to talk about is that, when I came to you a couple months ago and said, look, there's a half marathon in our town in Encinitas, and I just finished with football, and it's the first half marathon of its kind in our town. I want to run it. By the way, it's in a month and a half. And by the way, I hate running. And also, by the way, my knee's completely messed up and I've got major bone bruises on my knee and I can barely walk. Can you help me design a training program? Any normal, well-adjusted, non-crazy person would have been like, dude, you're nuts. Like, I'm not helping you, whatever. But you're the one person who was so awesome, was like, yeah, man, I'll help you out. Let me figure it out. Tell me about that. I want to talk about that because you designed it. And so when I first came to you about and told you those things, what was going through your head? What were your training philosophies about how you thought you'd be able to help me?
God, the first thing that went through my head is I do not want him to be injured, because the running community promotes you have to run to get better at running. It's single sport oriented. And while that may make sense for somebody who's very well trained, it doesn't make sense for people who are not very well trained in pounding their body to the ground, because that's exactly what running is.
Right.
So my first thought was, I want him to have the conditioning to be able to finish this, which he probably already does. But I need him to be able to handle the pounding. So my thinking was to give you that in smaller doses, less frequently than traditional, programs would prescribe.
Right.
Because, how many people do you know? I was training for this race and I got injured.
I know probably like 50 people like that. And, it's funny because I've run 3 marathons, and I think this was my 7th or 8th half marathon, but I'm not your traditional runner because I've had 2 ACL surgeries, back surgery, and I'm not a guy who likes to go out for a 3-mile jog on the weekends. I hate it. Yeah. I run, when I run races, I do it because I love how I feel afterwards, the sense of accomplishment. Yeah. But it's really, I can't stand the running piece. So for any, for those of you who are listening, if you think like, well, hey, I'm not a natural runner, I don't like to run or anything. I mean, believe me, you're just like I am.
I think most people are like you, honestly. I mean, when you go to those races and you see the average, the pool, you see the very elite coming through, and then you see the general population.
Yeah.
And the general population are doing it for reasons very similar to you. They want that feeling of accomplishment. Maybe they just had a baby and they want to lose weight or get back to how they used to be, 5 years ago, or maybe they're celebrating, a birthday, or, most people that do it aren't out there doing it to break records, to be top 10 in their age group. So truly, I think that if somebody listening was to want to engage in that type of training, I think the key is to use different sports to train for that day.
Yeah. Which
so
I had never heard of.
We rode, right? Yeah. We did a lot of rowing.
Yep.
Bicycling can be a great way to get the aerobic and respiratory development, but not the pounding to your body.
Yeah.
So, there's obviously a place for strength conditioning, which you have.
Right.
And you should never discount all of the work that you do with barbells and dumbbells, because that definitely contributes to your tensile strength and, your joints' ability to take the abuse that day. And if you observe, many runners don't have that. And you can tell the runners that prioritize strength and conditioning, mainly anaerobic conditioning and strength work, you can tell. And you can also tell runners who have no priority in strength work. They tend to be very thin and small, but they have the capacity to do that one task very, very well.
Yeah.
So, to your credit, and to many of your listeners probably have a sport that they enjoy, or they may enjoy weightlifting. I think you would be so surprised how well they would fare.
Yeah.
I think the key to training for a race like that is to not peak too soon, and to not get yourself in a position where you've pounded it out with long runs through the week and you're tired.
Well, that's funny you said it. So like in every marathon I've ever done, and in every half marathon I've done, or any race I've ever done, all the training I've done previous to this one was completely different than what you put together.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm used to running like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, or, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, taking Friday off, and then doing a long run on Saturday. It's going 4 or 5 times a week.
It's a lot.
And it's a lot. It's almost every race that I've gone into, I was pretty tired, even at the start of the race. I'm just because you just kind of get sick of running.
Yeah.
And this one was so different in the sense that I wasn't tired in the race at all. What I was, to some extent, I was in a little bit of pain because of my knee, but nothing else hurt. And I remember running half marathons before, and my whole body hurt. And it was like my knees and my ankles and my legs and my back and my shoulders. And in this one, I'm not joking. The only thing that hurt me were my right knee hurt a little bit. My hip flexors hurt a little bit towards the end. And then the next day, my upper back was sore. But I could have very easily the next day went out and played tennis or gone surfing.
That's a huge accomplishment. You should be so proud of that.
Yeah, I'm super stoked about it. So, okay. So what do you think are some of the biggest fears, most people have about long distance running, and what would you respond to them, or how would you respond to them? What are some reasons people will say, well, no, I can't run a half marathon, or, I'm not the person to do it.
They may not identify themselves as somebody who can accomplish that task. Oh, I can't do that. That's too long.
Then I'm going to send them a picture of my shirt off, and they'll be like, oh, that guy can do it. I can definitely do it.
Everything is one step at a time, not to be cliche, but you kind of develop a capacity to deal with the distance and the pain as you train. Mm-hmm. And what might be a long run is today for someone is 2 miles. 2 miles will be your warm up at some point.
Yeah.
And it happens slowly, but it happens with training and time. And you can develop the capacity to withstand that longer distance, not only by running, but by doing different sports. So I will say that one of the most fantastic cross-training tools that you could ever engage in is swimming. I
Oh, interesting.
absolutely
Okay.
love to swim. I think it's awesome. It's one of my favorite activities.
It's so low impact too,
It's
right?
kind of, it is. And it's hard to get to a pool. You know, there's a little bit of a
Sure.
hassle involved with getting in the pool. You got to like take a shower before you get in the pool. You got to get your hair in a cap. You got to get the right goggles.
Yeah.
You know, you have to find the right crew to swim with because swimming alone is boring. I think everyone can agree with that.
Yeah.
But joining a master's program at like the Boys and Girls Club here in Solana Beach, they have one.
But do you have to be a good swimmer to do that? Like, I'm not a good swimmer.
No, you don't. And in fact, I ran a marathon in 2006 and I ran it very well, but I injured my right foot and I could not run. I got a little tendonitis in my right foot from just the difference in the way the right foot and the left foot strike. It was just the volume after the race really bothered my foot. So I took a month off and I ended up randomly just deciding to join this master's team at La Jolla High School. And they organize the pool by your ability.
Okay.
So the slowest folks will be on the left side of the pool, and as the lanes go toward the right, the faster people will be on the right.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So
cool.
they organize you based on how fast you can swim 100 meters, which is 4 lengths of the pool. And then based on that, you have peers that you can swim with, and it becomes very fun. So I was in the last lane when I started. I had no idea what I was doing. And it was so fun. And I worked my way up to the middle of the pool after about a year. And I enjoyed it so much because you swim intervals, you swim a variety of different strokes.
Can someone who doesn't really know how to swim do something like that?
Well, they need to have like the ability to like get in the pool and at least do a front crawl or freestyle. But yeah, I mean, you can totally do it. And it's a great way to train cardiovascular strength for running. It keeps you from, killing your joints, right?
Yeah.
Your knees and ankles. Now you can't have too much of a good thing because then if all you do is end up swimming, you're going to end up hurting your shoulders, right?
Sure,
especially if you're a new swimmer and you don't have the technique down. But small doses of yoga, swimming, rowing, what we do at Stratum, small doses of variety absolutely do wonders for people that want to train for a single sport event.
So that's interesting. So because this is it's so different than what a lot of other, people who are listening or have thought about doing half marathons or marathons. All the advice out there, like if you're like going to want to run a half marathon, any book, they all say, you got to spend time on the pavement. Yeah. You got to get the mileage in. You got to do
you know why they say that?
No, why?
They say that because it is easy, number one.
Okay.
It's very hard to direct somebody to do 3 different activities, right?
Right.
It's hard to do that. You can't really do that in a book. Oh, go swim, go do this. It's much more difficult. It also ensures that the person they're training get that eccentric loading, which is the pounding.
Tell me that.
It's the pounding that you feel when your foot striking. So your quadriceps lengthen as you strike to the ground and you foot strike. So that pounding is hard to develop in the ability to handle that pounding is hard to develop in other sports,
right.
But you get that in running, right? So if you run a lot, you're going to have a really high capacity to deal with that pounding. But there's a line there that you have to be careful not to cross because
you start hurting yourself.
You're going to end up hurting yourself. So if you can run for the sole purpose of getting your body used to that load, working on your capacity to withstand the distance, and supplement that with alternative training tools like we talked about, in your case, rowing. And I did recommend swimming, by the way, for you. Mm-hmm. I think it's a fantastic way to train. Yeah. And I think the industry, and I say the industry, meaning the endurance community, is moving more toward that. There's even a local Ironman former competitor, McKeely Jones, who stumbled into a CrossFit gym up in Carlsbad, I think in 2008, and actually has said, wow, this is a fantastic way to train for, Ironman, for international distance, for Olympic distance. So the community is becoming more aware.
Does Jones still work out there?
I think they do, actually. I don't know, but I read this article in Competitor Magazine recently. So, I mean, it's becoming more public that training with methods introduced by CrossFit, methods that we use at Stratum, and not being afraid to not have time on the pavement
Right.
is becoming more accepted.
That was no joke. That was my biggest concern.
Yeah.
I remember lining up. So the funny thing about this race is, for me anyway, was that I think I told you, like, I got a cold, and the race was on Sunday.
Yeah.
I caught a cold Friday because my daughter was sick. So I started this race, I would say, at about 75% in terms of how I felt. And my knee was all messed up. You know, it's been messed up from football. So, like, you know, I had like a cold, and basically, you know, I had a knee problem at the same time. And I remember going into the race, starting out, I'm like, man, if like Tricia's wrong, I'm screwed. Like, this is going to be awful, because I know how I am. Like, I won't stop. Like, I'll finish it, but this will be the worst thing ever. Like, I'll hate it.
Well, I'm glad I wasn't wrong.
Yeah, no. And the funny thing was, like, and I really want to, I want to do another one in maybe 6 months when everything is fully healed. I'd love to do one when, like, my knee feels good and I'm not sick, because I think that I would do even better. I mean, like, I feel like it would be even better for me. And yeah, I'm just super stoked about how well it went, and how surprisingly, I wouldn't say easy, but how surprisingly good I felt at the beginning of the run, and how during the training, I think one of the biggest things with training for a normal person like me is that, you know, you struggle to get to the gym. Work is crazy. Kids are crazy. Like, you just run around doing your normal life. So you struggle to get to the gym or get your workout in, and you're so mentally taxed by the time you get there. And I feel like running, like, if you run 4 or 5 times a week, like, just stupid stuff. Like, you know, like, say you run with music. Well, like, you get sick of the music after a while, right? Yeah. But I didn't have that at all, because every time you did a workout or created a workout for me, it was something new and unique. And so, like, I didn't have any of that mental fatigue going into the race. And I actually looked forward. For the first time in my life, I looked forward to the long runs on Saturday, because I hadn't run it all during the week. And I was like, all right, you know, like, I can go do 10 miles right now. Yeah. This is no big deal.
And I think the endurance community crafts their training more for people that enjoy running.
Right? Yeah, totally.
So if you, I mean, I enjoy
like people
running.
Like you.
Yeah. So, you know, when I train for a marathon, I love to run. Like, I do it for the training. Yeah. The race is part of it. That's fine. But I do it for the training.
Right. And you're in that top 10% of people who, like, they love running. They're good at it. They're like, have a history of doing it. So for you, like, you're like, oh yeah, I can do a marathon in a couple of months and be fine. Whereas, 90% of us are more like me, where, like, it's a struggle. Yeah. And we're doing it for a sense of accomplishment. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to go get some exercise.
And it should be fun. Like, the race day should be fun. Yeah. You should look back at the training, and you should be able to look at 2 or 3 things that you learned from that training. Yeah. Like, did I learn to run better? Did I learn to row better? Did I learn more with my strength and conditioning in my strength and conditioning classes with my peers? Did I push a little harder during those classes because I was focused on my race? It should be a whole body engagement. It shouldn't just be about the singular sport that you're tasked to run.
One of the things that I learned, along those lines, I definitely learned a couple of things during the race. And one of them was, like, after going to Stratum and doing the workouts that you had me doing before class, I learned, the extent of, like, in the past, if I was tired or really, really hurting, I would stop, and walk for a long time. And I think in this one, I did that a lot less, because I've already learned how to dig a little deeper and just kind of mentally push through it. I feel like a lot of times when you're in races like this, it's almost like a basketball game, right? Where there's 4 quarters. The first 2 quarters, start of the race, you're going out. It's fantastic. Everyone's screaming and yelling. It's, everyone's together. It's awesome. You get to midpoint and you're kind of like, you still feel pretty good because you've only gone 5 or 6 miles or whatever. But it's that third quarter for me where it's like, you're more than more than halfway done.
Yeah. You're not alone.
But you're not at the end.
It's the worst part.
Yeah. People have thinned out the interestingness of doing a race is sort of worn off. You're at mile 9 and you're like, Jesus, I got 4 more miles to go. Like, I'm bored. I'm hurting. Like, and I've learned, like, how to dig deeper to kind of get through that mental fatigue and get through that mental anguish and just kind of keep going. Yeah. And I think I also learned in the training you provided for me, I learned during the race kind of going forward, like, what areas I'd want to work on. I learned right away that I was like, okay, my weakest body part during this thing right now are my quads, and I'm like, all right, I need, that's good to know so I can work on those in the future. But I think in any other previous races, I wouldn't have known that. I would have just known like, oh, I'm just sore.
Right.
Whereas this one, I was like, yeah, it's my quads. Like, and you could point to something diagnostically and say like, this is what, something I want to do. Tell me about this thing that people talk about, the runner's high.
Oh, the runner's high.
Yeah.
That's what I love so much. It's just a feeling of peace. It's just a feeling of control and peace. And I think that once you reach a very rhythmic, calm breath and all you hear is your feet and your breathing, and you can go for hours.
Yeah.
It's a really empowering feeling.
Yeah.
I can remember, I think I was about 14 years old, and my parents had lived in Orange County. And so I would often drive to the beach. Okay. So I think I had to have been 16 actually, because I had my car. So I was 16 and I took my car down to Dana Point, and I didn't know what I was going to do when I got there, but I decided to go for a run. And I remember going up Coast Highway, going up a hill toward Monarch Bay. And I remember feeling so empowered because it was just me and my body out there by ourselves. And I felt like nothing could stop me. Nothing was going to, I wasn't on my bike. Like I didn't have to worry about my mechanical issues on a bike. It was just my feet and me, and nothing was going to slow me down or stop me. And I felt like I could run all the way up to Huntington Beach,
Yeah.
And for me, it's a really empowering feeling. And I think it is for most people that have that relationship with their body.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy that. I don't know if that's common or not, but I would say many runners describe the high, like when they're done, they're just like, oh, it's such a sense of peace and like relaxation. But I definitely feel that during the race or during the run, when you just hear your breathing in your feet, it's a pretty empowering feeling.
Which is so cool. Like, and I wonder, what's really interesting about that is, you're a woman, and I think that that's such a great lesson for other women listening of how it can be so empowering. I would never say that it was empowering for me.
Right.
Like I would have never even thought, I would never think to even say that word. So it's fascinating to hear you say it. Like for me, it's more about that sense of I'm doing it and I'm accomplishing it. Or maybe that is along the lines of empowering, but it's not like,
well, your body won't fail you.
Yeah.
My body is not going to fail me. And I think that's a pretty cool thing.
That's super cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I know what you mean about the run, the buzz afterwards. Cause like anytime you finish a race or a long run, you're definitely buzzing for a while. Definitely. Like you're just stoked about everything. And I don't get calm. I get more, I'm just more excited and just kind of like bopping around or whatever. I'm tired.
Did you eat a lot of food, or did you have no appetite, or was it varied depending upon the run?
Yeah, because we haven't talked. So this is the craziest part. So ended the run. We all walked back to my office, and then we went to Swami's, which is a local food place here. And the place was packed. Mm-hmm. There was like a half-hour wait to get seated because there were like 10 of us at that point.
It was so many people. At the race.
So many people. And then once we got seated, they like messed up our order. So the food took like 40 minutes to come out. So I was about to pass out. Yeah. So I ate an entire cheese omelet, English muffins, and then like 3/4 of a giant pancake.
So you were hungry.
I was hungry. I was super hungry. But then afterwards I felt, like I ate way too much, but it was great. I definitely had that runner's high kind of buzzing, for a while. So let's talk about a couple of things. So I wanted to ask you too, what do you think went well in my training, and what would you have done differently? Or
I wish I had more time. That's what I would have done differently.
Yeah.
That's the,
that was my fault. Totally.
That I wish I had more time. I would like to work on gait. Yep. We didn't have time.
When you mean, and you gait, you mean running gait? Like.
Exactly. Running gait, foot strike, the upper body connection with like your upper back was sore.
Yep.
It was from rotation. I'm most certain.
Yeah.
Because we talked about that, right? So moving your hands kind of across your chest as you fatigue, whereas we want to keep our hands more toward at our hip, right? Do you remember we talked about that before the race?
I do remember that.
And I just want to add, so the upper back, the importance of the upper back. If you have very good strength in your upper back, it really does help you
Right.
keep those hands straight, and you literally, you are pulling yourself through your run.
Right.
Do you remember
right,
we
right.
talked about
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I remember we talked about it, and I remember like,
And the upper back is so important, and runners don't think about that. They think
Yeah, we never
about the
thought about
front, right? So I just find it interesting that you said your upper back was sore.
it was literally the only thing was
That
sore.
is so funny.
Yeah. I mean, my knee hurt, but my knee hurt before I started.
Yeah.
But the only part of my body that was actually sore was my upper back.
So I would like to work on gait and hand placement and those types of things. I'm happy with how it went because you felt great. And I think you made some interesting self-discovery during that process. And I remember you saying that your strength and conditioning sessions felt better to you.
They felt way better.
So those types of things are awesome beyond just the day.
Yeah.
And that's why I think these types of things are important for people to do, because they learn a lot about themselves and they have new experiences to bring to their old rituals or their old habits. Like when you come to class now, you're going to come in and you're going to say, I do better if I warm up for 10 minutes. Right. So it's so much more about you and your development as an athlete and as a person than it is about the actual day.
Right.
And that's why those things are fun to do.
Yeah, they're awesome. So what 3 tips would you give to non-runners?
Try would be the first one. Even if you don't think you can, try. Seek out information from reliable sources and trusted partners.
So let's say they don't know where a reliable source and trusted partners. Who would they go to?
I don't want to say this, but they could absolutely come into Stratum. I mean, between Blake, Eric, and I, it's a very honest environment to learn from.
Yeah.
There's no mincing words. There's no false promises. Those two are fantastic.
If someone doesn't live locally though, besides
go to our website and email us.
Okay.
There's a lot of misinformation out there on Instagram. It's hard to sift through because everybody's photos are so beautiful. Let's talk about that. What's the deal with that? It's really, really hard to seek out good information in the fitness world. So I have reputable sources that I like to get my information from that I'd be happy to share. But it takes time. I think that's the other thing I would say is it takes time.
It takes time. Yeah.
You're not going to sign up and be ready in 2 weeks unless you want to walk it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
which is totally okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there were people walking our race and and they were having a blast.
Totally.
I passed 2 women. They were like older women, and they were like drinking a coffee, having a blast.
Yeah. So seek out information and be patient.
Okay. Maybe you can send me some links and I'll throw them in the show notes for people.
Yeah.
Because not everybody lives, a lot of people don't live locally. A lot of people, it's pretty crazy. We've got listeners all over the place. Like we've got people in like Sweden and everything else.
Wow.
And so thank you all for listening.
I would love to go to Sweden.
You guys are awesome. If you ever come to San Diego, let me know and I will buy you some fish tacos. Okay. So I have just 2 more questions for you, 3 more questions for you. I'm going to leave the last one, the one that came to you after you said something, but what conventional advice that people hear about running do you think is just totally wrong?
The first thing that comes to mind is people think they're not a runner and they can't do it.
Okay.
That's the first thing that comes to mind. I think genetically there are people that are built for the sport, just like in swimming. Look at Michael Phelps, right? He's obviously built for the sport.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that if we're not built like Michael Phelps, we can't swim.
Right.
It doesn't mean that if you're not built like a marathon runner with long limbs and, long arms that you can't run.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that comes to mind. The second thing that comes to mind is that, there's good to be gained from trying, and whether it's a 5K or it's a 10K, I've run all of those distances. You might engage in a 5K, and then try a longer distance and decide that you don't like to go long, but you like to do a 5K. And maybe you have a background in cycling and you might decide to do a biathlon.
Right. I
mean, you never know what can come of it. And it doesn't necessarily lead to, I'm a runner now. It leads to additional self-discovery.
Right.
And, the other thing is that when people get injured that do one sport like running, like I met a lady yesterday and she said that she broke her foot. And I said, how did you break your foot? And she said she was reaching for shoes in her closet and she just tipped over.
Oh my goodness.
And so, clearly she is a runner. You could tell by just looking at her. She was incredibly small. But she said, she doesn't know what to do now. So I found that interesting because you want to be able to continue to train even if you're injured.
Right.
So the more diverse your sports background can be, even if you champion one particular sport, the better athlete you're going to be and the healthier you're going to be.
Right.
So I would say, if you're a cyclist, add running to your repertoire. If you're a strength and conditioning monster, add, a mile or two to your, program to change it up. You might feel really great. You might experience something that you haven't experienced before.
Interesting. Do you think, along those lines, I mean, it seems like what you're saying too, and you're not really saying this, but it sounds like you're saying this, is like, you really set the bar low for people. Like, you're not saying like, hey man, you got to go run a half marathon and do it in a certain time. You're just saying like, get on the road and see what happens.
Just try.
Yeah.
You might really enjoy it. People, they won't know unless they try. And it's like that with any sport. I walked into our gym and had no idea that I would fall in love with the barbell until, I started trying.
Right.
I didn't know how to lift weights. I still am learning, and you kind of start your own adventure when you try things that you haven't tried before.
Yeah.
And you start everything slow.
And the cool thing about that, one of the things I love about that is it really helps you when you make that first initial effort. It creates momentum in your life. It builds confidence. It builds self-worth. Like there is a sense of accomplishment when you finish any of these things. You get it, like as you're saying, you feel empowered. Just really cool, really, really cool. Okay. So here's my question that came up while you were talking earlier. I want you to talk to one of our listeners, somebody who is overweight, out of shape, has never done anything like this before, and might be listening and might be like, this sounds really good, but there's no way I can do this because I'm overweight or I'm out of shape or I don't have time, whatever. Tell me what you would say to them.
Well, if it pertains specifically to running, I would say the first thing you have to do is start. That's the hardest part. And it truly is as simple as putting one foot in front of the other. It's as simple as putting on your shorts and a t-shirt and tennis shoes and tying them up and walking. It's as simple as that. It starts there. If I'm speaking to somebody about the overall engagement in strength and conditioning, along with just building their body from a cardiovascular perspective, so more multi-sport, I would say, again, the first step is lacing up your shoes and starting.
Yeah.
It's truly as simple as that. And that quiet time of you lacing up your shoes before you head out the door, whether you're going to go for a walk or a run from your door, or you're going to jump in the car to go to the gym, that time of lacing up your shoes, making sure you have your water or your supplements with you, or just your head on your shoulders that you're going to go finish what you start. That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
As soon as
why is it so hard?
I don't know. It's kind of like when the alarm goes off and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to get up. But it's just easier to get up than it is to hit the snooze. It just is easier, because then you hit snooze and you're like, oh my God, I have to get up in like 10 minutes. Is it?
This is why I don't use an alarm clock, because of that reason alone.
Yeah. It's just do it. I don't want to sound like Nike, but I think that tagline is so powerful. And that's why it's been their tagline for 15 years, you know, but there is a part of you that you just need to
just start,
get out of bed when the alarm goes off, putting on those shoes and just going. That's the start. And I think there's so much judgment and so much, I have to do this, or, and that's where, the fitness industry does a disservice to our population, because they put, artificial bars or goals that people have to reach, like, oh, do this, it's so easy, or, you can do this or that. You know what? Just get out there and start. Do whatever is better for you. If you haven't gotten out of bed for a week because you've been sick, you know what? And you want to start this, my call to you is to right now go downstairs or go in your garage and put on your shoes and go for a mile walk. My expectation is that when you come home, you're going to feel so much better than before you left.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow, maybe you go for a mile and a quarter. And then the next day, maybe you go a mile and a half. And then next week, maybe you run a mile. It's just as simple as starting. So I think support at home is also a huge factor.
Right.
Your wife is incredibly supportive. I think surrounding yourself with people that support you is so important. It's so important. And if you don't have people that support you at home, go find some, because I promise you, if you go into a facility like we have here in San Diego, they will support you.
Yeah.
And I know that there's facilities like that across the world. You know?
You have to have that. I think you have to have that. I think it makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
I think it would be way tougher to do it. It's tough to do anything all by yourself. I mean, starting, you have to do that piece by yourself. And I think that's great advice.
And there's people that want to pull you off the path too.
Sure.
There's always some crazy food that you should eat that's not good for you at a party.
Right.
Or there's always, a new movie that's out that requires you sit down for 3 hours and watch it. There's always something that will take you off the path. And so you really have to do it for you and decide for you that you're going to do whatever it is you're going to do, whether it's learning how to do a clean, or if it's learning how to run, or learning how to walk, there's a method to walking. We talked about that too, right?
Yeah. Which was a different method than I had ever walked before.
And walking isn't exactly a walk in the park, unless you want it to be, you can kind of go for it on a walk for sure.
Yeah.
So
what's cool about everything you're saying, which is really interesting. It speaks to you as it speaks to you more as a person than as a coach, is that you really come at this from a completely different place. You come at it from a very non-judgmental, just start and do what works for you. Like that's kind of your angle, which I think is just so awesome for so many people, because I think you're right. I think people like me who don't know nearly as much about fitness as you do, and you're under a deluge of information. Mm-hmm. You don't know what to do. Someone says you need to start by doing 400 repeats as a warm-up base, and you're like, dude, that's not a warm-up, that's like my whole day. Like I can't do that.
Exactly.
And so I love your advice about just starting and just do something that works for you and build upon it, because it sounds like that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah
Yeah.
Because movement is powerful, and it requires you to engage emotionally as well as physically. And when you move your body, chemicals change and you experience pleasure, and that becomes its own driving force for you.
Do you feel like that? You just made me think of something. Do you feel that running and working out has really, does it really change your emotions and your mood?
Yeah.
How?
Well, they've actually studied that runners in particular, because of the amount of pain that they experience, release OxyContin.
Okay.
So that's obviously pleasure. You can go and get it at the drugstore, right? So absolutely, there's a hormonal shift in your body. There's no question about that. So the types of training that you do will dictate the type of hormonal shift that you'll have. If you engage in meditative breathing, you could absolutely argue that there is a change to your central nervous system, which changes the hormones that are released by your body.
So have you noticed that all your life? Like, have you noticed, because I definitely noticed, like, if I don't work out for a few days, I'm definitely more antsy and more just kind of like on edge.
So think about that for a second, because there are people that haven't worked out, that don't participate, right?
Right.
I think it becomes easier the less you work out to engage, because you don't know what it feels like to feel that good.
Right.
And it may have been so long since that engagement may have taken place that you have forgotten how good you can feel by moving. And so that's why I say that is the most important step, no matter what you're trying to do, is to do it. And with that movement comes reward of, oh my God, I did this. Oh my gosh, this movement got better. Oh my gosh, I got faster. I did more. And those things take care of itself in terms of getting that person back out there.
Right.
So absolutely, chemically, things change for sure.
What would you say? It's funny. I always like to keep people under 30 minutes because I want to keep them kind of on the podcast because
Am I over 30 minutes?
Oh yeah, we're over, but it's because you're really good. So you're inspiring me to ask you more questions. So I had my last question like 10 minutes ago, but I'm gonna ask you a couple more. So as a woman, so there are women out there who don't want to do fitness stuff or CrossFit stuff or running stuff because they're worried about how their bodies are going to change and how they might, end up being too bulky or too muscular or whatever. What would you say to them?
So the type of training that we do at Stratum is inspired by CrossFit, but prescribes with a lot of intelligence.
Would you call it like functional fitness?
I would. And we do weightlifting that you see, at the games, right? We do Olympic lifts, we do gymnastics. How much we do them is dependent upon the individual's desire and skill, because obviously if the skill's not there, you can't engage in very, very complex movements, but you can certainly set the table and prepare people to do that, which is what we do. But your body is already designed, right? So we all have different body types. If you look outside, we have short, we have super tall, we have people with short muscle fibers and people with long muscle fibers. We have bodies that come in all shapes and sizes, and not just because of fat on people's bodies. Everybody's body is built differently. So CrossFit type work will enhance the body and show the body that you have, because you are going to be working in so many different planes of motion and with so many different types of activities, and weightlifting and running and rowing and skiing and biking and gymnastics work. You're going to be doing so many different things that your body is going to express its true self. So if you are meant to be built in terms of having muscle, it may show up on you. You may see that, right? If you are what they call a mesomorph body type, which is somebody that has definitely more power in the movements that they execute. Their muscle fibers are shorter, and they're more of like a gymnast. Think of like a gymnast. They're petite, they're very muscular. Most of those gals are more mesomorphs. Somebody like me, who's an ectomorph, who's taller, longer muscles, I will tell you, I'm having a very hard time putting muscle on and getting, quote, bulky. I'm trying to. It's not necessarily happening quickly, right? So that is my genetic DNA. So if I approached this sport and said I'm going to get too bulky, it would be laughable, because there's no way that genetically that's even possible.
Right.
The other thing that's odd, and I was thinking about this yesterday, because for years I taught indoor cycling. And one of the things that women would tell me is, I don't know if I can put any resistance on the bike because I don't want my legs to get big.
Right.
And just yesterday, I was thinking about how strange that is, that a woman would come into a class to experience physical exertion, but then say they don't want to put a lot of resistance on the bike because they don't want their legs to get big. And at the time, and this happened to me a couple of years ago, I was told this by somebody. I remember being very confused by that statement. But as I've spent more time in this business, it's become very clear to me that the messaging the fitness industry puts forth to people is very broken. A woman should be encouraged to put resistance on the bike to outride the man sitting next to her, and not be at all concerned about her legs getting big, because by the actual physiology of exercise, it's not going to happen simply by riding a bicycle.
And who cares if it does? Like I'll tell you right now, as a guy,
who cares if it does, number one, and physiologically, number two, you're not going to get huge quads by riding a bicycle.
Right. And what makes, and this is a completely different topic, but I think what makes a woman attractive, or like what attracts me to my wife, it's personality. It's personality and looks and body after that. And I think there's probably nothing sexier than a woman who is comfortable in her own body. And I would think that most women probably feel the same way about,
regardless of the shape, right?
Yeah, totally. So that's interesting. That's
the message, though, that the fitness industry puts forth is extrinsic motivation by losing weight or looking better naked. That is the overall message, because it's not a healthy message, but it's a message that makes money. And that's the message. And unfortunately, for people like Blake and Eric and I, we want people to get in there and get fit for long-term intrinsic reasons.
Right.
And that is a hard thing to package and market to people.
Sure.
So whether it is, a race like you went through, or coming into the gym and learning how to do a pullover on the bar, or learning how to lift weights, learning how to train to be strong, it doesn't matter what it is. It should be a journey for you.
Right.
Whatever it is. And it should be viewed as a journey and not as an end result, no matter what you're trying to accomplish for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
Because it's about overall health and not about trying to look better. Could you look better? Yeah, it's a byproduct, but it shouldn't be the primary reason because it's not sustainable.
Right. Right. Because we're all going to get to be 80 years old and wrinkly and goofy looking. More goofy looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Well, anyway, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it.
I had fun.
Where can people reach you? Where can people find you online?
Online, my website is earnmybody.com.
Love that name, earnmybody.com. I'll put it in the show notes. Where else?
And I'm on Instagram.
Okay.
Earn My Body. My little dog is on Instagram.
Ozzy. I know. I thought you were going to bring Ozzy today.
I did not bring Ozzy because Ozzy went to a party on Saturday night.
Oh, okay.
He's exhausted. And then he went on a walk with me and some friends yesterday. So he's tired. And he went with me to get my car fixed today because it wouldn't start.
Gotcha. Oh, lovely.
So he's tired.
Oh, poor Oz. Okay. Well, thank you very much for being here. Tricia Moore. I will put her information and as well as some other links on the show notes. Thanks again.
You're welcome.
Hey, thanks for checking out the Make Life Epic podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. For more information, check out jimsimcoe.com, jimsimcoe.com. And as always, feel free to leave a review on iTunes. Those really help us out a lot. So if you could do that, that'd be great. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Have a fantastic day.